Yes. Hello?
There you go.
Yeah. So here I'm describing an experiment we did on music and time perception. So we've been looking at how different musical parameters may shift our sense of time while we listen to music. And this experiment was on timbre, or timbre as we call it, also this difficulty. So first, to give you a background, there's already some research around music listening and time perception. And as in many other talks today, what we have is essentially three main factors that influence this relation. So first, the listener, mainly age, gender, and musical expertise. Then the context, what situation are we listening to this music? And then the music itself, how is the music we're listening to? In terms of musical factors, mostly musical tempo has been researched on, also tonality, meter, I'll be presenting a poster on meter too today, and then familiarity and enjoyment, also related to the listener somehow. But we found no research on timbre, so we decided to go this way. So quickly going, here is the panel on timbre. So timbre is a little bit multi-dimensional, so it's not like loud and soft. We can change sound in a few different ways, and they're all perceived as changes in timbre. So here, like the three circles, meaning this cooperation of different elements. And there's also some research on timbre and emotion, and it mainly uses musical instruments, trying to understand whether some timbres may be better suitable to express certain emotions instead of others. But here we wanted to use voice. Voice will enable us to get to other concepts. First, in terms of presence. So listening to a human voice may evoke more naturally the presence of a human. There's this concept of perceived identity oneness. So studies looking for how we respond to different speakers found that we tend to relate more, listen more, and enjoy more voices from speakers that we perceive as closer to us. So this is also one characteristic of timbre. So it's through timbre that we recognize voices, or we even imagine what kind of speaker is talking. And we also have some studies on human versus machine voices, usually trying to look for how much human we want the machine voice to be according to what message we want to pass to people. And usually what they find is that we tend to like more the human voice, to enjoy more, to connect more with the message, and to be more relaxed while listening to it. So an artificial voice will cause some discomfort, especially if it wants to sound emotional. And all this lends to emotion. So why emotion? Because emotion is connected to time perception. So to frame a little bit what we know about time perception, here we will be studying two different perspectives. In terms of duration, how long the song seems to last, and in terms of passage of time, how fast time passes while I was listening to it. So in terms of duration, we have internal clock models. What they predict is that the brain is constantly creating electric impulses, regular in time, and we kind of accumulate those pulses to generate a duration estimate. And what we know from experiments mostly not using music is that the speed of those pulses can increase if we are more in an aroused state, or decrease if we are more relaxed. And when we pay attention to some task that is very attention demanding, we kind of lose attention to the clicking clock, and then it seems shorter. In terms of passage of time, it seems to mainly be connected to engagement. We have less research on this, and this normal feeling we have. The more we enjoy what we're doing, the faster it seems to pass. So connecting this with what we know about human and artificial voices, what we predicted was the human voice will lead to a shorter duration. First, because it causes us to be more relaxed, so the clock may run slower, so we count less pulses. On the other hand, because it tends to engage us more and we pay more attention to it, we pay less attention to the clock, so we still count less pulses, may look shorter. In terms of how fast time passes, as we tend to be more engaged with the human voice, we will perceive time as passing faster. So this was our hypothesis, what we thought before we started this. And so we created two different stimuli, looking for the most natural human voice. We went for females, maybe going to this more early life connection with the female voice. Here it is.
Do 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 do.
No need to hear the whole thing, so it follows like a 12-bar blues, some kind of structure, just the voice, no accompaniment on this. Can I click the other one without clicking? Okay, text. Yeah. And this is. So we tried to make it as more robot as we could to be assumedly artificial. We used the same audio file, just passed it through some filters to create this. And then we had people online listening to both stimuli. We put other different musics in between so they wouldn't directly compare them. And it was perspective, so it means that at the beginning of the experiment, they already knew we would ask something about time or duration in some way. And their tasks were, after listening to each song, they had to reproduce duration with the start and the stop button, rate how fast time passed, and then rate the music, mainly about how much they enjoyed it, and also some pair of adjectives we thought would make a difference here. Then they did a short questionnaire about their musical expertise and their emotional state at the beginning, because it could somehow affect their time perception. In terms of results, some things we were expected actually happened. So the human voice was perceived as more natural in this natural-artificial duality, more pleasant, and I would say a little bit stranger, happier. So the artificial voice was judged as sadder, and this one was happier. In terms of duration, we found no differences, nothing particular there. In terms of how fast time passed, we do have a trend of the artificial voice passing slower. So here our scale was from 1 to 5, 1 being very slow, 5 very fast, and 3 would be normal. So actually the human voice is normal, perhaps because we normally hear more to humans, but the artificial voice was felt as passing slower, not slower in tempo like the experience of listening, but slower. Important associations. Passage of time was connected to enjoyment mostly, also matches what we have in other kind of experiments with visual tasks or everyday situations. And then this kind of connection between how natural, how artificial the timbre, and how sad or happy, which was not so expected. We also had some extra findings. We had to learn more about it and frame it. So other experiments on speech also found this, that females tend to be more tolerant to the artificial voices. So they still like the humans more, but not such a clear difference as male do. And they found this in speech, also cautioned here because it's not highly significant, so just a trend, maybe worth investigating more. And then in terms of musical sophistication, so we used this Gold MSI index, and when, let's say, out of 6 subscales they have there, 4, we found that people with higher sophistication estimated the duration more accurately. They were almost really accurate. So it lasted for 31 seconds. It's in milliseconds, the scale. So people with high in all these subscales were much more accurate. So in conclusion, mostly what we can take from here is what we found from speech also applies to music. So let's say this comparison between humans and machines, our preference for humans stays when we go to music. Let's say music is not enough to make an artificial voice sound more pleasant. It still is preferred on the humans. And also this gender bias which seems interesting, worth and studying more. Also, the literature refers this difference between how fast time passes and how long it is. They seem to be two mechanisms that operate with different factors, ruled by different situations, especially under 1 minute. In durations over 1 minute, they both seem to be somehow influenced by enjoyment. But this was tested in other tasks, mainly visual tasks and crosswords and all this, and it seems to also apply to music. Then we have a hint that maybe timbre may shift our sense of passage of time, mainly possibly through enjoyment, but it doesn't affect duration. So other musical parameters like tempo or meter seem to affect duration. Timbre seems to affect how fast time goes. And musical expertise may increase accuracy in these prospective judgments, which is another discussion that's been going on. Some studies find yes, others find no. So this may say probably yes. And that's it. This is part of my PhD research. I've been looking at different musical parameters. This was a more tentative one. Actually sounds more promising than we expected. And it's been funded by the Portuguese Foundation for Science and Technology. So, thank you.